Camshaft Position Sensor A.
If you're enjoying the content on this channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. We have a Camshaft Position Sensor A error code that we're going to address. I've managed to obtain two replacement camshaft sensors. There's one on the intake side and there's one on the exhaust side. So this is the intake side, that is the exhaust side. This sensor here is the one for the intake side, and this one here is for the exhaust side. You definitely want to ensure that you get a replacement cable. As you'll see, the one on my car is significantly deteriorated. You'll also want to ensure that there's a new rubber ring on the camshaft sensor. I would recommend going OEM because you are unlikely to have a successful job. You will also need a 32mm socket to remove the Vanos solenoid. Now, I've spent some time researching how to replace this part, and it can get very complicated because there are a number of ways to do this. I believe the simplest way is going to be by removing this Vanos solenoid. So there are 4 steps. The first is to remove this PCV line here. So you'll need a little screwdriver just to wedge that out. Right behind it here is the connector for the Vanos solenoid, and it's here that you'll apply this spanner to unscrew the solenoid, and right beneath that is the actual camshaft sensor that you'll need to extract using an Allen key. You can actually see that the one on my car, the wire that goes all the way down to where the intake is there, is significantly deteriorated. We'll obviously have a look at it once I've managed to remove it, but this is typically a 3, 4, 5 hour job because most individuals tend to remove everything on the intake side, making it exceedingly complicated for the rather simple task of replacing a sensor. To disconnect the camshaft sensor, you're going to have to remove the air filter box and the intake hose. I'll just point to where the sensor is. So my thumb there is actually on where you need to access to detach the sensor. So all of this is going to have to come off. I do have some replacement connectors for these hoses because that's a bit warped. So yeah, to remove the air filter box, just 2 steps. You have this 10mm bolt, and there's also this ring. Removing the air filter box requires 2 tools, a 10mm socket wrench and a long screwdriver. Final step is to remove this hose clamp with a long screwdriver. That goes there. There are 2 of these clamps to remove. There's this upper one and then there's another one there. You'll also need to lift this sensor off the intake hose and put that to the side. You need to be very careful with the mass airflow sensor. There's a little bit of plastic that connects there. Mine has broken off. It's a cross that's on there. It's so brittle, you just touch that and it falls in, and this costs an absolute fortune. You do not really want to be paying to replace another OEM one of these from BMW. So with this clamp and the other clamp loosened, this should just pull off like that. The air filter box removal has released all this space, so I believe that the camshaft sensor that we need to detach is over here. So we're now going to work on the solenoid end. Next up, we detach the PCV line with a screwdriver. Looking at the inside of the pipe, it really is quite clogged up, so this PCV line really could do with being replaced. That is the Vanos solenoid that was a walk in the park to remove. I'd anticipated this being abstruse, but really. And now all that remains is an Allen key to remove this bolt. It is Loctited from the factory, so you'll probably have some fun and games trying to loosen that, but that is the final step, because that is what is connecting the camshaft sensor to the engine. So some Loctite on the screw that attaches the camshaft sensor, which is why it's not so easy to remove. The camshaft sensor should now come off. Just going to try and wedge it. So that is the sensor. Now if I pull on this like this and go to here, you can actually see that it is this connector here. So if I just remove, it's a bit tricky to do when you're recording, but that comes off. And now it's just a question of threading it out. and obviously it would get caught. And there we are. We've managed to remove the camshaft sensor on the intake side. This is what it looks like. It is missing an oil ring. I believe the replacement one has an oil ring. It just looks very, very dirty. Hopefully replacing this will eliminate the check engine light. The sensor does have an oil ring. You can see that failed to come off with the sensor, so that needs to be wedged out. Before you install the new camshaft sensor with a new oil ring, be sure to dab the oil ring in a little bit of oil. Now we're going to thread this back. Employing some serious Newtonian mechanics here, also known as gravity. So I've managed to thread it through. I'm just going to connect it. So here is the sensor, and that needs to this way or the other way. So that is the sensor returned. You will need two hands to reattach this. You need to press that wire that allows the socket to house. And now what remains is to place that oil-soaked oil ring back onto this sensor and screw that back in, then install the Vanos solenoid, then connect that to the solenoid, then return that. So making good progress. And now the Vanos solenoid. The pipe has basically been just tapped back into place. The connector for the solenoid is also firmly in place. I cannot move the solenoid at all with my bare hands. It is reasonably tight. So what remains is to return the air intake boot, reconnect the mass airflow sensor, and finally the air filter box. After installing a new camshaft sensor, we're going to start the car. So we have a map cooling thermostat, control signal, circuit high, misfire in cylinder 3, a cylinder 5 misfire as well, and a cylinder 6 misfire. So the camshaft position sensor A issue has gone.